Blessed be God and his angels and in his saints, in the name of the Father, Son, of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
So, 1968, Padre Pio died. He died on September 23rd. For 50 years, he had the stigmata. All of you know this. I would bet $100 your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, your nieces and nephews couldn't tell you 5 things about Padre Pio. Padre Pio was known for many things, but one of the things that almost everyone who studied him knows that he could bilocate. So, Italy is like Florida. It's a peninsula. So Italy looks like a boot. So I already have the attention of all the women because I'm talking about shoes. Then I will talk about coupons. And then, of course, that just puts the bow on it, right? So anyway, the Padre Pio lived on the back side of Italy. So if you start at the heel of Italy and you go up, it looks like a spur coming out. And that's where you find the cave of St. Michael, the Archangel. St. Michael has the distinction of having blessed a church, the only church in the world not blessed by a bishop. St. Michael blessed the cave of St. Michael in the year 490. That's 1,002 years before Columbus, whoever that was, right?
No.
Right, there you go. In 1492.
Well, it was a sailed ocean.
Exactly. So in the year 490, so where St. Michael's cave is where Padre Pio. So you're already starting to see connections between saints. St. Padre Pio spent a lot of time praying to St. Michael, the Archangel. So if you go on up the coast of the backside of Italy, just before it turns up to Venice, there's a place called Monopello, Manoppello. And Monopello there's a little church there, and inside the church is a famous image, and I have an exact copy from that image here. It's the Holy Face of Monopello. Now this involves another saint, Saint Mary Magdalene. This is about the size of a man's handkerchief. Okay, so Saint Mary Magdalene owned this cloth, which was made of something very exceptional. It was made of it was a product of mussels, like oysters, mussels. And so it has that character of when you open up an oyster and you clean the shell, it's got that opalescent color. So now I'm talking about jewelry. Oh, there you go. This is great. So I better deliver on the coupon thing. But anyway, so just before they closed the tomb on Good Friday, St. Mary Magdalene took this veil off of her head and placed it on top of the other cloths on the face of the dead Christ, and they closed the tomb. According to Jewish law, anything that touched a cadaver could never go back into circulation. If the temple authorities heard that the Shroud of Turin and the other cloths, and even this one, was back in circulation, they would have hunted them down and burned them, destroyed them, and then killed anybody who was passing these things around. It was very serious. If something had contact with a cadaver, and on Good Friday, Jesus was a cadaver. You see that cadaver shroud in the north of Italy, Turin. The Shroud of Turin, that's Jesus on Good Friday. This is Jesus on Easter Sunday. Pope Benedict was once asked, Pope Benedict, first of all, when I was a kid, we had milk cartons and they would put the pictures of missing kids on the milk cartons and say, have you seen this kid? All right, so we need to start putting St. John Paul II and Pope Benedict on milk cartons because nobody mentions them anymore. Just ask your kids, ask your grandkids. Who was the Pope when you were born? Huh? All of a sudden, they're hard of hearing, right? Just like their grandparents. Anyway, so somebody asked Pope Benedict, why was St. Mary Magdalene the first one to see Jesus on Easter Sunday? And he said, because she was looking for him. That's the classic line. And I bet nobody laughed because they probably didn't even get the joke. It wasn't a joke, it was reality. So here we have St. Padre Pio, St. Mary Magdalene, St. John Paul II in the first 6 minutes of this talk. Now, there was a Jubilee year in the year 2000. Again, ask your children and grandchildren, your nieces and nephews, why was there a Jubilee year 2000? And you'll never get, now if they're homeschooled, that doesn't count, right? They know everything. So, and they usually do. But it was to mark the 2000th anniversary of the birth of Christ. Well, yeah, everybody knows that. No, just get out a $100 bill, borrow it from your wife and say, okay, tell me, I'll give you this $100 if you tell me why there was a Jubilee year 2000 in the year 2000. They can't tell you. So John Paul II wrote a letter at the end of the Jubilee year 2000. It was from Christmas Eve 99 all the way through 2000 and ended January the 6th, 2001, the Feast of the Epiphany, the Three Kings, another three saints, right? So he wrote this letter. It's called On the Beginning of the New Millennium, Novo Millennio Iuniunte. So if you just type in Pope's letter, January 6th, 2001, it'll pop up in Vatican.ba. There's much of the letter that is, you can read it once and you can just mark the paragraphs that you like because, pardon me, he writes very well. The paragraphs I like, I just keep referring back to again and again. But there is a section here talking about the face of the Son of God. That would be paragraph 24. All documents that the popes write have a number, so it's easy to reference them. So paragraphs 24, 25, 26, and 27 are the ones. So we're not looking at a phone book, right? We're not looking at a big fat document. Oh, great, just what I need is another book to read. However, what he does here has something to do with last Sunday. The last line of the antiphon for the Mass said, constantly seek the face of God. Constantly seek his face. Constantly seek his face. What does that antiphon have to do with today's feast day? There is no saint in heaven who is not looking at that face. So this face is anticipating an eventual arrival into heaven. When Our Lady appeared to those three children at Fatima, 2 out of 3 of those children are saints. Number 3 is on her way. She told them, yes, you will go to heaven. Yes, you will go to heaven. Yes, you will go to heaven. That was a ridiculous waste of time because today we all know when you die, you go to heaven. I dare you to say that to your children and grandchildren and they will not laugh. You know why? They actually believe when you die, at least 99.999% of people alive today in the world believe that when you die, you go to heaven, including atheists and Satan worshipers. And I'm really having to put the brakes on political parties right now, but I won't mention any political parties. but I've got both feet. I've got both feet on the brake. Yeah. Oh, there you go. If I was a woman, I would have one on the brake and one on the gas. That's why you're always having your brakes replaced. Right? There you go. So anyway, St. John Paul II published this letter, and in the letter, he's got a refrain that keeps repeating constantly, contemplate the face of God, contemplate the face of God, contemplate the face of God. So when he died in 2005 and Ratzinger was elected and became Benedict XVI, he's the other pope on the milk carton, remember? That nobody mentions anymore. I love John Paul II, but Ratzinger was like John Paul 2.5. It was like a new version, even better. And so the first trip he took from Rome, outside the city of Rome, he went to Montepello. Now, and when he got there, he said, I'm here because my predecessor, and he quotes that, contemplate the face of God, contemplate the face of Christ, which is on the beginning of the new millennium. And I would be willing right now to bet $100 that nobody's going to look up paragraph 24, 25, 26, and 27. Oh, it's so long. I mean, I just don't have time. And you wonder where your grandkids get it. As they say in Spanish, 3 words in Spanish, flojera, which is not 3 words. It's 1 word, and it means lazy. Remember I think it was St. Goldilocks. This is too hot, this is too cold, this is too hard, this is too soft. Well, I can't read that document. Okay, well, just read these 3 paragraphs. Well, that's just too short. Why do we think our parents and grandparents teach us about Little Red Riding Hood? Wait, that was Goldilocks, right? So to get us to know how we're just like Goldilocks. So, and in the end, those 3 bears died because she broke into their house. So in paragraph 27, after he begins a treatment on this face, he's talking about the face of Christ as a face of sorrow. This is not a face of sorrow. This is Christ on Easter Sunday. This is the risen Christ. This is the resurrected Christ. This is Christ in his glorified body. On the Shroud of Turin, that's the dead Christ. On Good Friday, his eyes are closed. His mouth is closed. His eyes are open. His mouth is open on this. He left his image on Easter Sunday so that we could cherish the face of God. Yes, Good Friday, he's a man of sorrows, so that's the face of sorrows. And on Easter Sunday, there is a joy that cannot be conquered, right? Well, speaking of conquering, Sunday on the old calendar was the Feast of Christ the King. In 1925, on December 11th, 1925, so if you type in December 11th, 1925, Pope's letter, you'll find that letter. And most likely, that feast day of Christ the King was established because the Pope saw what the government of Mexico was doing to the people of Mexico when they went to church on Sunday, for example. Everybody went to church on Sunday in Mexico, and then the Mexican army would ride into town. Then they would lock the doors from the outside and burn down the church with the people inside. And this went on and on for over a decade. The Cristeros, the Crisiada, the Knights of Columbus made that great movie for greater glory. So the Pope established Christ as King, King of the universe. When I was a kid, we all went down to Holy Trinity, and across from Holy Trinity, we would assemble parishes from all over the diocese, and we would assemble by parishes, and we'd bring statues or banners or whatever, and we'd walk down to the cathedral, and everybody loved it. That's why we stopped it. Think about what I just said. How many things in the Catholic Church did we absolutely love that have now been stopped? Anyway, they're not stopped. They're just really on pause. So that was the Feast of Christ the King, and it was established. It was established by the Pope because of what was happening in Mexico. In Mexico, the Mexican government was making more and more saints. When Blessed Miguel Agustín Pro was killed, and at the end of Her Greater Glory, at least the one that appeared in the movie theaters, at the very end when they rolled the credits, they actually put the film coverage of Blessed Miguel Agustín Pro being shot by a firing squad in Mexico City. They just thought that he was going to cry like a baby and beg for his life. So they wanted to film it all, and he didn't. He died heroically. So much so that was November of 1927, February 10th at 11:30 at night, a 14-year-old young man from Mexico, Sahuayo, Michoacan, St. Jose Luis Sanchez del Rio, rather than stop saying, Viva Cristo Rey, long live Christ the King, and long live Our Lady Guadalupe, he was stabbed and shot and killed. Of course, he died 30 minutes before February 11th, which is the feast of Our Lady of Lourdes, when Our Lady appeared to Saint Bernadette Soubirous, who was also 14 years old. You notice how the saints keep following us around. You can't throw a rock and not hit a saint. The saints are everywhere, but nobody knows it. We really are doing a terrible job on talking about the saints. And I'm just the most recent example of that right now. Doing a terrible job talking about the saints. So St. John Paul II says in paragraph number 27 about Christ and his sorrows, faced with this mystery of how there's suffering and joy mixed together, faced with this mystery, we are greatly helped not only by theological investigation, but also by that great heritage which is the lived theology of the saints. And then he goes on to mention his favorites, St. John of the Cross, St. Teresa of Avila, St. Therese. Next year will be the centennial of her canonization. Nobody knows. But he goes on to talk about these. Then after paragraph 27, the face of the one who is risen. The face of the one who is risen. Friends, this is like shooting fish in a barrel. Somehow I managed to manipulate St. John Paul II to write in 5 paragraphs these items which fit into this talk today for the Metropolitan Sarah Club. I am that powerful. So, getting back to Padre Pio. Padre Pio died after 50 years of suffering the stigmata, the hands, the feet, the side. And I have a book here, the Padre Pio Under Investigation. According to some in the Vatican, Padre Pio was a terrible individual. The swamp has been alive and well for a long time, everywhere in the world, right? It's like before we had air conditioning. You open the windows. Kids today say, what are windows? They think it's something on the Kindle or the computer, right? No, you'd open the windows, and when you close the windows later on, what was everywhere in the house? Mosquitoes and... Okay, it's funny. The men say mosquitoes because the men were never going to dust, right? The men say mosquitoes. Well, that's women's work. There you go. So women, you have, except for that comment about the brakes and the gas, you are winning so far, okay? So St. John Paul II canonized St. Padre Pio, right? So St. Padre Pio was surrounded, the last 3 days of his life on earth, he was surrounded by Franciscans praying around the clock. In the south of Italy, where the cave of St. Michael is, on that spur off the boot of Italy. And so the day before St. Padre Pio died, the Franciscan, maybe it was the same day that he died. It's either the day before or the day that he died, September 23rd, 1968. I was in grade school, which is amazing because I'm only 29. And as they say in Washington, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Okay? So the Franciscan went over to the church of Montepello. Remember, Montepello's in the north of Italy, just before you get to Venice. So we went over to open the door to the church where this image is venerated. And he walked into the church, and guess who's kneeling there in church? Padre Pio. And he recognized him. Well, wait a minute. He was in the south of Italy, next to the cave of St. Michael. Obviously, Padre Pio, before he would spend eternity contemplating the face of Christ, what did he want to do? He wanted to contemplate the face of Christ. We just finished the month of the Most Holy Rosary. And if you walk up to most Catholic, I'll say Catholic men, here's another one, ladies. If you walk up to most Catholic men and said, okay, in one hand you have this, on the other hand you have a shovel. You said, okay, you can either pray a rosary or dig a trench. Most men would say, how deep do you want it? Right? Right? It's just obvious, right? And so the rosary was the constant companion of Padre Pio. And so the need to pray the rosary is a way of contemplating the face of Christ in his joyful mystery, in the joyful mysteries, and the sorrowful mysteries, in the glorious mysteries. Just an easy way to contemplate the face of Christ while holding the hand of Our Lady, Queen of all Saints. So Padre Pio was contemplating the face of Christ. If we make it to heaven, and you'll notice I said, if we make it to heaven. When Our Lady spoke to the 3 children at Fatima, yes, you will go to heaven. Yes, she will go to heaven. Yes, he will go to heaven, but he will have to pray many rosaries. And then the 2 children asked about 2 young women who had come to live with them. One was named Maria and one was named Amelia. They were asking, they had died of the Spanish flu. The Spanish flu started in that part of Spain we call Kansas. Which you could slip that right by your grandkids. They wouldn't know unless they're homeschooled and they know their geography. Kansas is not in Spain. Okay, so the Spanish flu actually originated on a military base in Kansas where they had to grow their own food for the troops, right? So since she had already asked 4 questions, she said, where are you from? She said, I'm from heaven. Well, I go to heaven. Yes, you. So 4 questions. And then number 5, she said, is Maria in heaven? Yes, Maria is in heaven. Is Amelia in heaven? No, Amelia will be in purgatory until the end of time, end of the world. I guarantee you that Amelia made it to heaven on May 13th, 1917. How do I know? Because I'm a mind reader, like Kreskin, right? Yeah. Or I've got those, those special glasses that you always use at funerals when somebody says, Uncle Joe is now in heaven. Oh, yeah, there he is. Oh, there he is. How do they know? Raise your hand if when you die, you don't want anybody to pray for you. Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3. I asked that question on Labor Day at a funeral home, and out of about 20 senior citizens, 5 raised their hands. And you know why they raised their hands? Because why do I need people to pray for me? When you die,
Yeah.
look at that. Look at that. So that's 25 minutes. I need to finish this story about Padre Pio, though. Padre Pio was at San Giovanni Rotondo, and he was also at the same time in Montepello contemplating that gift of St. Mary Magdalene. The books that have been written on that, but there's a website here too that I'll show you afterwards that you can go to, and it's got all the information on it. How many have a devotion to St. Jude? Like, duh, right? I can't figure out, but my late mother, God rest her soul, my great mother had a great devotion to St. Jude. And somehow it started in 1959, the year I was born. My mother's name was Gertrude, but she went by Trudy. And the day after I was born at St. Paul Hospital over by, it's not there anymore, it's Bryan Place. They put it in Bryan Place because they had all this property now since they moved the hospital. So the first full day of my life outside the womb, Dorothy Schroeder and another lady from work came to visit my mother. I saw Dorothy for the second time on November 16th, 2019. How can I remember that? Well, November 16th is the feast of St. Gertrude, my mother's patron saint. And I told her, when Dorothy told me who she was and how, et cetera, and she'd work with my mom, I said, well, Dorothy, I'm so embarrassed because I think the first time we met, I didn't have any clothes on. Oh, she hates that. She hates that. So anytime you see a picture of St. Jude, he's got a face of Christ right here. It's almost the size of a dinner plate, right? Well, you can see where my mind is, right? It's not even, we just got through at breakfast, right? So St. Jude the Apostle, by some traditions, is the one who went to Syria, to Edessa, not West Texas, Odessa, but to Syria, Edessa, because King Abgar V had written a letter to Christ and was begging him to come and heal him. Begging him to come and heal him because he had been sick and sick for a long time, and his entire kingdom knew how sick he was. Evidently, Jesus sent him word that he would not come, but he would soon send someone. And apparently, St. Jude took this image. The king was instantly healed, like the man in Sunday's gospel was instantly healed. And all of his kingdom converted. It was the first kingdom in the world to be a Christian kingdom. And of course, that Christian kingdom encompasses what would come to be known as Armenia. And of course, Armenia has been kicked around through pogroms and persecutions like some soccer ball. St. Jude took the holy face that was the gift of St. Mary Magdalene. That's what it was. I knew I was forgetting something. That image was so costly. St. Mary Magdalene carried it on her head because it was a veil, and it gave that opalescent hue when the sun would shine through it. But also she wanted to keep tabs on this because this veil was so costly. It was made of byssus, mother of pearl filaments. It was so costly. It's what a man would make in a lifetime. A man would make in a lifetime. I could just see St. Mary Magdalene going into the byssus store, and the man tells her, well, how much does that cost? Well, it costs what a man would make in a lifetime. And I can just see St. Mary Magdalene saying, I'll take two. So well, ladies, the ladies are still winning. I mean, you're way ahead. So these are just ways that the saints are helping us, and I'm just the tip of the iceberg. So it's now 30 minutes, and I've gone way over time, which is not unusual. However, what's the last thing? Contemplate the face of Christ. The saints are contemplating the face of Christ. I'm not. I can. I can do this with this image, and I can also do this before the tabernacle or before the Blessed Sacrament exposed. Contemplating the face of Christ. The Missionaries of Charity, St. Mother Teresa's order. She worked together with St. John Paul II. She saw Christ's face in the most distressing disguise in the poorest of the poor. So the saints are praying for me to get to heaven. And I don't pray for me to get to heaven because all of us, whether we realize it or not, there's this gravitational pull pulling us down. And the saints are pulling us up to heaven. Someone said, the devil cannot make hell beautiful, but he can make the road to hell beautiful. The ultimate bait and switch. And of course, here's a man who fought the devil for all of his life. This is material that was released from the Vatican archives and contains the sworn testimony by St. Padre Pio that the first archbishop went to investigate him in 1921, Archbishop Rossi. And so Padre Pio had to swear in peril of his immortal soul with his hand on the Gospels that he would tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. There is stuff in here that you don't have from that book from 1955 on St. Padre Pio. I don't think anybody's alive today who was alive in 1955. That must be very old. Wait a minute. I was born in 1959. So anyway, contemplate the face of Christ. And what's needed today, says John Paul II, is a lived theology of the saints. Blessed be God and his angels and in his saints. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and if you go to Amazon, you can get this book. If you type in Father Paul, you'll get 15% off. Not right. Okay, yeah.
What's the website?
The Montepello,
With all the dates.
yeah. With all what
It
days?
says the dates if you go to this website.
Oh, yeah, Montepello is MANOPPELLO.EU/EN for English. So, yeah, and it's got all the tabs. I'll pull it up here. It's got all the tabs on the side, like King Abgar, Weinberger. After reading that there was a King Abgar, Weinberger looks like Johnson compared to Abgar. Okay, Montepello. So, any other questions? But I'll leave the book over here. If you take out your cell phone and take a picture of it, this one is on Kindle too, so you can get Kindle so the robot can read it to you if you want.
Very pale Franciscan?
Yes, a Capuchin Franciscan. But he didn't need to be a Capuchin Franciscan because when you die, you go to heaven. Just like, okay, there was a lady years ago, Darlene. I think she was Mormon, but I didn't know, so I didn't ask. But I went into her shop about 5 years ago, and Darlene was crying. Later on, we discovered that Darlene was a woman. Okay, why was she crying? Okay, well, I cry when I'm happy. I cry when I'm sad. My dad first thing he would do in the morning is he'd get out of bed. Before he got out of bed, he'd light a cigarette because it helped him get going, right? And then right before he went to bed, he smoked a cigarette because it helped put him to sleep. So Darlene said, I said, Darlene, what's the matter? She said, well, I heard that that pastor from Dallas, and he said that all the Catholics and Mormons were going to hell. And my guardian angel stepped in, and I didn't say anything. You know me, I don't like to talk. And she said, I think everybody goes to heaven. So I said, you know, Darlene, in heaven, there are no locks on the door. And she liked that one, right? And said, so your apartment right across the hall from you is going to be Hitler, and then Fidel Castro's right over there, and then Stalin and Pol Pot. If everybody goes to heaven, then everybody goes to heaven. So the saints tell us that not everybody goes to heaven. So, but that's the real scourge today, because those three words I mentioned, flojera, laziness. If everybody goes to heaven, if you want people to pray for you after you're dead, if you're thinking that your grandchildren and great-grandchildren all of a sudden going to be converted with a flash of lightning and start praying the rosary for you, okay, when you wake up, you will not remember this conversation. 3, 2, 1. But if you pray for the holy souls, and those are the people we're praying for tomorrow and throughout the whole month of November, anybody you pray for and they get to heaven, they're going to pray for you. Monsignor Bodick. Oh, I love Monsignor Bodick. Oh, I could just hear the people. Oh, I love Monsignor Bodick. Well, Monsignor Bodick came to live with me the last 3.5 years of his life. And he was as fair, as white as that, right? And at first I started treating him like the people at Christ the King. He was their pastor for 25 years. I followed him around with a pillow. And when he went to sit down, I put the pillow under him, right? There you go. And he was just so depressed. And I thought, okay, so I started treating him like he was my brother and started poking at him every day. I called him Monsignor Rodney Dangerfield. And Monsignor would get so mad, and he took high blood pressure medicine. I thought, why do you take high blood pressure medicine? I can get your blood pressure going. And his face would be the color of a thermometer, right? And I say, Monsignor, are you really mad? Yes. Did I make you mad? Yes. Is all this making you suffer? Yes. So, all this suffering is going to help you get to heaven. So when you get to heaven, you're going to be contemplating the face of Christ and praying for everybody who helped get you to heaven. So you're going to be praying for me. And he always said the same thing. So pray for the poor souls in purgatory. Pray for the poor souls in purgatory, because they're going to pray for you when your kids and grandkids. Now, ladies, just think about it. When you're gone, your husband's going to do the dishes every day, and he's going to vacuum everything in case company comes over, and he's going to pray the rosary. And I'm 20 feet tall. Oh, yeah. Welcome to the State Fair of Texas. I'm not 20 feet tall. Anyway. So, anyway. Good. So, if you want to see it's not loading. Oh, here it is, Monopello. So, look it up. It's a great website. .edu. Monopello.eu/ENG. This site cannot be reached. Okay, well, whatever.
Just Ian.
There it is. Okay, here we go. Look at that. See, you can see the resemblance. And speaking of resemblance, when I first got this, it was on I put it on display on the evening of January the 5th. January the 5th is the vigil of January the 6th. I looked it up, which is the feast of the Epiphany, which is one of the days which is the day when Christ manifested to the non-Jewish people. So if, like me, if you're non-Jewish, this is our saints' day. Those three kings are the first three non-Jewish saints. And so going down the side here, you see all of these tabs on the side, And then you can see down here, Abgar. And you go further down here, it says Father Paul. I made you look. Okay.
That's great, thank you.